Well, we've got top of the hour, right, Daphne? What are we talking about today? Yeah, let's make a start. I'm trying to think of a segue to go from hockey to running a law firm. I think there's something there.
Well, it's
Uh,
December, right? It's hockey season, it's holiday season. So there's your segue, maybe.
that's right. Yeah. So welcome everyone to Family Law Now live virtual event series. Thank you for joining us today for practice tips for running a law firm in December. My name is Daphne Brooks, and I have the pleasure of introducing the panel today. So we have with us Russell Alexander, Brian Galbraith, Abby Adeusi, and Jarret Johnston. And they will be covering the following topics. Office hours, cash flow, hourly rates, and the cost of living, holiday bonuses and performance reviews, holiday parenting time, motions and disputes, office parties, how do larger firms differ from smaller firms, the rush and divorce day in Canada, diversity, and then at the end we will have final thoughts and Q&A. So as always, we encourage you to use the Q&A feature throughout the event, and our panel will do their best to answer your questions throughout, and if not, at the end. You will receive a follow-up email tomorrow, including all the resources mentioned throughout the event today. And it is now my pleasure to introduce each panel. So starting with Russell Alexander, he is the founder of Russell Alexander Collaborative Family Lawyers. With over 25 years of experience, he uses his knowledge and expertise to serve his clients in all aspects of family law and helps them in coping with the difficulties of separation and divorce, the division of assets, such as home and pensions, and the calculation and enforcement of child and spousal support. He uses his experience to create unique solutions for each client to enable them and their families to move forward and supports them through the transition of divorce and separation. Russell has written 4 books on separation and divorce and is a fully trained collaborative practice lawyer. Thanks, Russell, for being here and for hosting the series.
Thank you, Daphne.
And next up, we have Brian Galbraith. He is the owner of Galbraith Family Law, which has 4 offices in Ontario and 19 collaborative lawyers. Brian is the past president of the International Academy of Collaborative Professionals and served on its board for several years. Brian is an international presenter and trainer. Brian has helped train hundreds of collaborative professionals and conducted workshops on the international stage. Brian lives on Lake Simcoe near Barrie, has 5 kids and 2 grandchildren, and 1 dog named Rocky.
Yeah,
Welcome,
Rocky.
Brian.
Don't forget the dog.
I have to ask, what kind of dog do you have, Brian?
Portuguese water dog.
Oh, very cool.
I
I
like
live on a
Rocky.
lake. You gotta have a water dog.
Was it after Rocky Balboa?
He was the runt of the litter. They thought he was going to die. He survived, and so they said he's a fighter, and they named him Rocky.
Oh,
Says,
that's a great story. Thanks for being here, Brian. Next up, we have Abby. Abby is the founder of Abiola Adeusi Professional Corporation. Abby completed her law degree in England in 1993 and trained as a solicitor after taking a break to have her family. She was called to the Ontario Bar in 2010 after relocating to Canada with her family in 2008. Abby is a trained collaborative lawyer and a trained mediator. Abby is dedicated to her clients and uses her vast knowledge, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills to assist her clients. Abby believes in giving back to the community and is the past president of the Peterborough Law Association. Abby is passionate about her clients, and what matters to them matters to her. Thanks for being here, Abby. Welcome.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, we have Jarret Johnston. He is a partner at Gemmell, Johnston and Jeffries, PC, where he practices primarily in family law, specializing in litigation, collaborative, and traditional settlement work. Jarret also offers services in wills and estates and real estate. Jarret is the president of the Kawartha Lakes Law Association and executive on the board for the Kawartha Collaborative Practice. He has acted as a director for the Children's Services Council and spoken at several provincial, national, and international collaborative conferences and seminars. Jarret is passionate about getting his clients the best result possible with the least amount of financial, mental, and emotional damage, whether in the boardroom, or the courtroom. And I will now hand things over to Russell Alexander to get started with today's presentation.
Thank you for those kind words, Daphne, and welcome everybody. Let's go to a poll. Let's see what's happening with our audience. Thank you everybody for attending today. First poll of the day is, do you close during December? And if so, when do you close? And we'll give everybody a minute or two to answer this. I've got some questions that came in advance. So thank you everybody for sending in your questions. Hourly rates, do you guys raise your hourly rates to reflect cost of living expenses? Interesting question. Usually we flip them over in January. You want to go first, Brian?
Yeah, we do that too. A couple of years ago, we sort of made sure that all of the hourly rates were made sense, having regard to the years of practice that each person brought to the table. And now it's just an incremental change. So this year, I think our increase is about 5%, right across the board. We sort of rounded up or rounded down, so it's not like $327.55 or something.
Yeah.
We rounded up, and so we just made it a straight 5% increase.
Abby, how about you?
I was just listening to Brandon. I'm like, I need to do that, to be fair. I haven't
Some lawyers
actually,
don't change their rates for like 20 years, right?
I haven't changed my rates since before COVID.
Yeah.
And that's something that I was thinking about even before we started talking about this presentation. So now hearing Brian say about 5%, I think that might make a bit more sense. But I might have to take a closer look at that because one, you want to be competitive, but you don't want to price yourself too low, because if I haven't increased my rate in 4 or 5 years, what's going on there. So that's something that I would definitely look into, but 5% would be my benchmark to start with.
Okay, interesting. Jarret?
Yeah, I'm sort of in Abby's boat. I was listening to Brian as well, thinking, oh, that's a good idea. Same, it just organically, if a few years have gone by and we haven't addressed our inflation and our billing rates, then we'll kind of in an ad hoc way address it. I was thinking of an old story where an old client of my father's came in and one of the clerks quoted him on what a will cost. And it was just our standard firm pricing for the will. And he balked at it and said, wow, I had his father do my will for $100. And the receptionist was trying to be polite, but she laughed and kind of said, and how many years ago was that, sir?
Yeah.
It was in the 80s, but
Yeah, we increase our rates. Traditionally, it's 10% a year. But this year with the higher interest rates and our clients are feeling a pinch, we're probably dropping down 5%. But all our expenses are going up, right? Our rent, our software is super expensive. Professional fees for lawyers just went up again this year. So, in my view, you're leaving money on the table if you don't raise your rates because you're not covering your costs. But let's see what our audience thinks. Get our poll results. When is our audience open? So yeah, this seems to be the majority December, a few days before December, right until the 6th. Stat holidays, I like that one. My staff doesn't. Other you can put in the QA box. Open for the full month, a few people. I know some lawyers, they close for the entire month of December. I have no idea how they do it, what their clients do. So that's kind of interesting too. And Jarret, you're in court today dealing with Christmas. Usually this presentation was focused just on Christmas access, but I thought it'd be kind of neat to put a bit of a spin on, what it's like to run a law firm in December. It's different than the other months. So let's start with
before you go on to that topic, could we just address the closure topic? Is that all right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to work with a business coach, and he suggested we close down for the 2 weeks at Christmas because he said the goodwill and the the re-energization of your, is that a word, re-energization? Of your staff and the lawyers would be well worth it. And so we've done this for many years, shut down for the 2 weeks, and it because January tends to be one of our busiest months with new clients. So everyone comes back energized, excited, happy to be at the firm, and looking forward to a new year. So that's why we did it. His point was that the return, your ROI on making people work over the holidays, it just wasn't worth it. The bigger ROI is to give them a break and let them become fresh and ready to go for January.
That leads
And I
into
dare say,
our,
yeah, I dare say the lawyers need a break too. We need to
Yeah.
re-energize as
Oh,
well.
absolutely, absolutely.
so that
Yeah.
is actually our first topic, right? Office hours. When are you open and closed? Jarret, you want to take the lead on this?
Yeah, we're closed from the 20th right through the 6th, so sort of consistent with the audience with that poll. Just a couple tips on that point. We make sure that our socials are all updated, letting the public, the community know when we're closed. We have our reopening hours, and then usually if we do have coverage during the shutdown, it's interesting because as I was listening to Brian talk, if you offer other services, if your firm is family law only, I agree wholeheartedly. Sometimes it's more difficult to completely shut down for the whole 2-week block, depending how your firm's dynamics are. Real estate, for example, if there's a closing around the first week back, sometimes there needs to be some work done over the break. But yeah, we shut down. We posted on our website, we posted on our social media services, and just make sure if there is going to be coverage that we cover that, but we make sure that the community and the clients know exactly when we're shut down.
Yeah, Abby, what about you?
So I always shut down between Christmas and New Year, and straddle a couple of days in between, really, because I think one certainly needs the break, needs to re-energize. I do understand that sometimes, there's urgent, there may be some urgent situations that come up during the holidays, and certainly it's something that we advise our clients accordingly. But I think in order to be as effective for our clients as we want to be, we also, as lawyers, need to take that break and take that minute and come back to it afresh, with a new, somewhat of a clean slate. And as Brian said earlier on, January is usually very busy. So it's nice to just have that break to recharge, detach, and then get back to it. So that's what I've done that since starting my practice in Canada, and I've just maintained that right through.
Yeah, if our audience has questions or comments or want to participate, just put it in the chat. Brian, did you want to jump in on this?
Well, just Jarret was saying how he put it out on social media as to the closure. What we did is we changed the signatures in emails for everyone, probably for the last month or so. Sometime in November it was changed, maybe end of October even, just to alert the world, because we're communicating with the world through email. So
It's a great idea.
But I like the idea of social media. We hadn't put it on the website or anything.
Yeah, I take a slightly different perspective. When we were smaller, we would shut down. What we do at our firm is we have duty lawyers and duty clerks on staff. We have intake staff available. Because if you think about it, you're missing out on 2 weeks of leads and new clients. So it doesn't mean they're going to get in those 2 weeks, but they can certainly get booked for the first week in January. So we jam up first week in January, we open our schedule up and we just do new clients for the entire week. The second thing is we're in the service business, right? We're here to serve clients. Sure, it's nice to take a mental health break, but our clients are in crisis and they may not make it between December and January. So I think it's essential that there is some kind of connection. If there's an urgent urgency or suicide or child protection matter, there are some lawyers that can be accessed during that period of time. But we're all different. But I just the volume, I can't I couldn't justify being that disconnected for the entire team for the entire period. But let's see what our audience is thinking.
Wes, you know what? I'm gonna change our notice and say if you've got a real urgent matter, here's Russ's home phone number.
Personal
Well,
cell phone.
Or put crisis lines on there, right? Suicide crisis, child protection services, counseling. Sure, they can call me. I'll take the call, maybe.
Yeah, but isn't there a difference though between, and that might lead into what Russell might want to talk about, isn't there a difference though between closing your office between a certain period and completely not checking it or keeping an eye on it, right?
Well, yeah, we all say we're done, but the emails are still coming in, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we can still access it. We may or may not respond. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So there may be lawyers available, they're just
Mhm.
not publicly available.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. So let's see what our audience is thinking. Go to our next poll. Does your team disconnect over the December break? And let's see what our audience does. It'll be interesting. The one lawyer I know in Toronto who disconnects for the entire month, I think is fantastic. You know, that of all the months to take off, this is probably the best month to take off in terms of the insanity of Christmas motions and getting short served. And I find that when I tell clients I'm taking time off, it seems that every client wants to contact me the day before I'm going to take some time off. So you get a real push there. So, all right, let's see what our audience results are here. All right, fully disconnect. Good for you guys. 14% monitors emails. Yeah, I think it's just our nature that we have to monitor you can't let go, which is part of I guess, a professional issue. Lawyers expected to be on call, 14%, clerks on call, 7%, no duty lawyers, and other forms of coverage. So put that in the chat and Q&A box. All right, let's go into how do we manage the business side of it, cash flow. And Brian, because obviously we still got large staff who want a paycheck, but they're not billing anytime. So what do you do, Brian? You want to take the lead on this?
Well, it's always a challenge because our billings usually in November are really great. December are a little bit less, and then January is often the worst month for billings. Although it's a very busy month with new clients because our billing cycle, how it works is it would be like the first week of January and the third week. So the first week in January, that's only a short period of time of billings, and so it's tough. And so I was caught off guard a few years back, and we had to deal with the cash flow crunch. But now we try to predict, have a budget and try to predict what the flow of income will be coming in and what our expenses will be. And the other thing is December's an expensive month. We have often we pay bonuses out, and we buy gifts for people, and we have a lunch for everyone. So the expenses are up and the income's down. So
Yeah.
we really try to project what that's going to look like to make sure that we have money in the bank to pay everything that we need to pay.
Yeah, you go for an office party or dinner for, a few dozen people, you're into several $1,000s right there. It doesn't even include Jarret's bar bill.
I was gonna say, or another law firm showing up and putting their bill on yours.
That's how you can improve your cash flow, is you put the bar bill on Jarret's bill.
Right. All right. Well, let's get into you, Jarret. How do you manage cash flow throughout December? Because you're a fairly big team there.
Great tips from Brian. One thing we've kind of started doing organically over the years is making sure we're on top of our billing in November. I made a big mistake one year and tried to jump on the billing mid-December, The clients also don't usually appreciate getting bills right leading into the Christmas holidays. Everyone's in a crunch. So we just try to be on top of it. We're cognizant of that. So we'll make sure we're on top of our billing cycle in November, which puts lots of cash flow in to kind of cover that December period, because we're all in the same boat. December's definitely more expenses going out and less income coming in for us as well in our jurisdiction. Same thing covering Christmas parties, those kind of things. So we just make sure we have the cash flow in the bank by the end of November, and then we cannot be so worried about getting through the December season. And same thing as your firm, Brian, we have more of a pickup of client intake, more files in January to sort of pick up the pieces.
Yeah, it's a tough nut, right? Sending a client account during Christmas and their trust balance is getting low, and they've got all their expenses they're trying to manage as well. It's difficult conversations for sure. Abby, how about you?
It's pretty much the same. I think the end of November is when to ensure that you tighten that belt, especially if you're going to be closed for 2 weeks, in December. So I literally would go through and make sure that, of course, you get some billings done in December, but up until November, just ensure that, there's no WIP that you haven't billed, just catch up, use it as an opportunity at that time. Because of course, as lawyers, end of the year is coming anyway, when we have to do the final annual report. So I use kind of end of November as a time to tidy up, start getting ready for that, but ensure that cash flow for December is going to be okay. So that's kind of my little tip that I use. But I go through my WIP towards the end of November, and ensure that that is really tidied up at that point.
Yeah, we're gonna run the next poll here. I agree with Brian. It's pretty important, especially when you get larger. When I say larger, you're more than 2-3 lawyers and support staff, to have a budget, right? Start planning for this in January. Maybe put some money aside each month, knowing December you're going to be upside down and you're going to be in the red. And that just kind of evens out that little dip a little bit if you start planning it early, and then it's not such a big hit. But great tips, everybody. So let's find out what our audience is thinking. Do you provide an annual pay bump during December? Yeah, this is always, you see these Hollywood movies with, people expecting their Christmas bonus to come in and are disappointed. But let's see what our audience says. Yes, 500 or less, 500 or more, about 20%. Additional days off, 13%. Gifts and experiences. It seems to be what the new generation wants, is experiences. That's interesting. So maybe put some of the experiences in the Q&A box. All right, so holiday performance reviews and bonuses. Abby, you want to start this one?
Yeah, I look at Christmas time as a time where you reflect really on the past year, but I think it's also important when you have staff to acknowledge their achievements during the year. When you do your review, make sure you acknowledge their achievements. And I think Christmas in itself, sometimes, with all the other things we talk about that we have to contend with, having to do a performance review at Christmas can also be quite challenging, because you're not going to be there. You don't want to tie it to whether or not your staff gets paid this bonus that we're talking about, if you're going to give it to them, or the experience. And I'm always a believer that the end of year should be a positive time for the staff. So I'm not sure that that's a good time to do it. It's just something that I'm just not sure about. So I think doing it at the end of year can be quite challenging, and it can have all sorts of different octopus legs that you don't want it to have. So potentially, if and then we have the end of year pressure as well. We're filing for a motion, that we're doing all of these things that we we responding to emotion even on behalf of a client. So I don't know that it's a good time to do it. I think February perhaps might be what I would do rather than December. That's just what I would say. I think it's too stressful a time to do it during if you're saying that your end of year is December. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, Jarret, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, I like what Abby is saying about that. We've gone back and forth. We have a bit of a hybrid model. We do give a cost of living pay increase, pay bump. We're one of the firms that do that at the end of the year. We do a small bonus as well for all the staff. But to Abby's point, we've kind of gone back and forth on whether that's the right time to do it. We have historically done a bit of a performance review at the same time as the pay increase in the Christmas bonus. I've spoken to colleagues that don't do it that way, that separate the two things, and I think there's a lot of pros to that and a lot of benefits to maybe separating any idea of a performance review being tied to the positivity of a Christmas bonus. So we might switch things just because of those insights. So. But yeah, we still do it sort of old school in the sense of Christmas time. You'll get your cost of living pay bump, your bonus, and a good job this year kind of pep talk.
So is that like a lump sum, or you just increase their salary by a percent?
We do both, a bit of a hybrid. We'll do a cost of living increase, which is usually fairly minor. It won't be a performance raise. We do that on a more ad hoc basis. If a staff member, a lawyer, or clerk is going to get a raise based on performance, we'll do that at a different time of the year. But we'll usually do a modest cost of living pay bump at the end of the year. Again, not every year, which is dangerous, right? Because you either have to do it every year, and if you don't do it every year, then the staff start to expect it, and then if you want to not do it, then you're in hot water. So. Yeah, some good ideas.
They build up that expectation, start budgeting on it, and if it doesn't come in, then you got problems. Brian, what are you guys doing over there?
We separate the performance review and the pay issues. Our pay, everybody is on some sort of a bonus system. So if they perform and do well and are very productive, they're going to get a bigger bonus. So it's not like us having to exercise discretion and say, oh, you're doing a great job. The numbers tell the story and they get paid accordingly. But we do a cost of living adjustment this time of year, and then we're do a performance review in June. So it's sort of before the summer and break, and people are doing taking holidays and so on. That's where we're doing our performance reviews. But we also do quarterly meetings and with the staff.
Yeah, when we were smaller, it'd be, a cash bonus for the team members. But now that we're a larger organization, usually the reviews would come on an anniversary of an employment date. And then we would look at compensation. And that's true, so that it would be scattered throughout the year depending on when the person started. And now we're moving to a system where all the reviews for the entire team are going to be done in March. And we'll do, 40 reviews in 1 month. And we have criteria. They know ahead of time what exactly we're looking for in terms of performance. In terms of money in their pocket, we're very similar to Brian. We pay bonuses, say, monthly based on performance. So if you're performing well, you're going to get a bonus every month. You don't wait to the end of the year to see, it's not discretionary or who's the boss's pet this flavor, right? It's based on data and how you're performing. And so everybody's treated equally. And I think that's really the fairest way to go about it. All right, so let's get in. Thank you guys. That was great.
I like that. If I may just interject, I like the monthly. I remember back in the day when I used to work as a solicitor in England, it was annual, and annual based on obviously your billing period, and then a percentage of that. And that takes a long time for you to actually get the recognition, so to speak, as to how well you're doing. So I really like the idea of the monthly, and that gives more of an incentive on an ongoing basis for the staff. So I really like that. Thank you, Russell.
It's an opportunity to coach too. It's not dissimilar to hockey. Somebody comes off a shift and the coach whispers in the ear some tips and some things they can do better. If you're doing it on a monthly basis, you can coach and mentor team to perform better, and they're getting rewarded immediately. In addition, it's easier on cash flow, right? We've paid it out monthly. The performance is there. The funds are there. We'll wait to the end of the year when we're already under a crunch because it's December. And now we got to pay bonuses on top of that. That's a bit of a double whammy. So it just kind of levels it off. It's easier to manage in terms of cash flow, and it's also a great way to coach your team throughout the year. And it motivates them too, right? They want to do better than they did last month. They've got their own KPI or their key success indicators, and we know what the industry standards are as well. So you just formalize that process.
You know, and I'm not 100% sure. Some people it motivates. I think some people are going to just do the best job that they can do. And so then I think of the bonus as a way of sharing the success with your team because they've contributed to it and they should share in that success. So that's how I think of it. But for some people, for sure, it's motivating.
Right. Okay, so let's move into the fun stuff. Holiday parenting time, motions, and dispute. So little Johnny's not going to make it over to whatever parents for Christmas. So we have the traditional approaches where it was a rush to the courthouse, right? Especially if it wasn't subject to case management. And I remember being in motions court. I'm sure everybody else does. There's 50 matters on the docket. The judge has time to deal with 5. Right. So you're negotiating Christmas access in the hallway of the court late into the afternoon. Everybody's upset. This is the way including the lawyers, and this is the way you're starting your Christmas break. Then, the pandemic had a whole different experience, obviously. Now we're post-pandemic. I'm finding fewer clients are waiting to the last minute. Maybe it's just my client base, but we're not getting these last minute panic motions, and maybe because the court, I don't think, would tolerate it. If the case law is clear, if you waited this long to bring it to motions court, it's not urgent. You could have dealt with it in August, but that's I'm seeing a change in the practice, not only in terms of what client demands are, but in terms of getting served last minute with motions from opposing counsel. And that could be because I'm doing more collaborative work, but that's sort of in my experience. So let's go in the opposite direction. Let's start with you, Brian. What are you seeing for holiday parenting disputes and motions?
Yeah, it used to be, 25 years ago that the judges often would stay till 9 o'clock at night dealing with every night their emotions and dealing with holiday time sharing. And we just don't see that anymore. I'm 19 lawyers. I'm not sure if we've ever even had any motion this year. I think it was all dealt with in advance and resolved. I can't account for it. I really don't know why that is, but that's what
I think the practice is changing. Jarret, what are you saying?
You're
sitting in court right now.
I'm still seeing a little bit of it, but absolutely agree with the comments thus far. It's less and less every year. We send a letter out to any clients that have children in October, letting them know that if they foresee any issues whatsoever with the holiday planning, to let us bring it to our attention right away, so it can be worked out. So we can call the other counsel, or we can get ahead of it. That's one small tip we picked up over the years and started doing, which sometimes alleviates the need for those last minute motions. I also think the court is making themselves less available. They're not scheduling December 21st, December 22nd full day motions courts anymore. So I think clients are aware of that, and the public's a bit aware of that they may not be able to wait to the last second because, as you said, Russ, there just won't be anyone to save the day. So I think it's a little bit of both.
That's a great point. Administratively, it's changed, right? I can't just shortchange you with the motion, file it, and the judge is stuck reading it.
Yeah.
They're going to reject it outright if it doesn't comply with the practice directions.
That's right.
Great insight there, Jarret. Abby?
I totally agree. I think I certainly don't have um, any motions that was potentially going to come in December. And I
What was
think
it like pre-pandemic? You're there all day, right?
you're there all day and then some.
A couple days, yeah.
Yeah, you're there all day and then some, because if you don't get rich, then you're back the next day or whatever it is. Like, it's crazy. We're there till 9 o'clock at night. And I think the pandemic has taught us a few things that, in as much as certain things are urgent, like, are they really urgent? So a lot of people have taken a back seat, and that's really the reality. And I do a little bit of what Jarret does, but I don't put it in writing in terms of, do a mass letter to my clients, and I think a lot of us, to be fair, and I'm going to give kudos to all the lawyers, I think a lot of us are thinking, and our mindset has shifted since COVID. We're not doing that anymore. And let alone, obviously, the courts you're not going to do it. So we're advising our clients differently.
Right.
We're not doing that tactic of that last minute, motion, I'll see you in court type of thing, that sharp practice that was quite very much alive pre-COVID. A lot of us are not doing that anymore. A lot of lawyers now, whether you're litigating or not, are practicing in a somewhat of a collaborative way. Plus, like we said, the judges have no time for all of this nonsense anymore, so they don't even give us that leeway. So we're able to advise our clients better and not bring this last minute motion that, I don't know about you, but certainly whenever I've done it, neither client is happy anyway. So it then becomes, what's the point? Like, no one's happy. So I'm not seeing people say to me, quite frankly, I want to do this in December and things like that, because you're managing your client right from the get-go appropriately. And I think that's and as you know, MAG have given us some leeway as well. In order to bring that kind of urgent motion, you've got to justify why and make a request for that motion. And so I think we're managing it better than pre-COVID. And that's why we're seeing less and less, because you're going to spend 2 or 3 hours justifying it to get a yes or a no. So you're not even going to get through the gate unless you've been given permission to do it. So that's those are my comments.
That's a really interesting discussion. If the client delays, it's on them. The lawyer's delay, you're almost negligent, right? If you're not dealing with it sooner. And just think of the stress on the mental health of the litigators. You're in motions court late at night, go home to your family, you're cranked up, you can't even enjoy the holiday. It's really been a lot better on everybody's mental health, I think, this change. And there's always somebody upset. And so I like Jarret's idea of putting them on notice. September, October, you got a problem, we need to deal with it now. Usually case management will deal with it too. If you have a conference, the judge will deal with those issues summarily, often in chambers if counsel agree. And it saves a day in motions court. All right, let's get to the fun stuff. Office parties. We have our grand poobah, Brian, to lead this discussion. Brian, what do we need to know? How do we have a good party at Christmas time?
Well, we used to have a Christmas party or a December party. Now what we do is, we have people that don't celebrate Christmas because they're of different religions and different practices. And so we have a lunch in December, which we go to a restaurant together, and everyone from the whole firm comes together for that. We do that. But then we have a party in February. And the reason we have a party in February is February stinks. It's dark, it's dreary. Nobody likes February, and there's no other parties. So we have a big event. This year it's at the Nottawa Saga Inn, and we're bringing in a performer who will entertain people and so on. And we really make it a big event. We also acknowledge at that time any work anniversaries. We give them a little trophy and expressions of gratitude for their years of service, and we make that a big event. And people, I think, really like it because there's not a lot of other good things happening in February. So sometimes we call it Beat the Winter Blues Party, or the magic of winter. And it's not a religious thing at all. It's just an attempt to lift spirits and celebrate the firm and have some fun. So that's what we do.
So if it's February, do you still put your Santa costume on?
No Santa.
All right. Abby, let's go to you next.
I don't tend to do anything in December, to be fair. We do like a lunch or dinner in January. And we don't kind of leave it up until February, which is not a bad idea, but we kind of do it in January. And that's when we would, whatever gifts and things like that people want to exchange between themselves, that's when we do it. So we tend to do a dinner in January, kind of towards the end of January. And the bonus of what we do is also, it's like a half day. So it almost feels like another Christmas. It's a half day, and we just go out and everybody gets dressed up and go to dinner and have a good time. I'm not big enough to have all these other things, but that's kind of what we do. I find Christmas a little bit there's too much going on at Christmas.
Yeah.
And I use it as an opportunity, to be fair, to have a conversation, spend time with people as to how their Christmas went and things like that. So it's kind of like a decompressing time as well, to just hang out. So that's kind of what we do.
Nice. Jarret?
Yeah, we do
I know
half
what
day.
you do.
Inevitably, our firm Christmas party usually blends into our association Christmas party. And
High-eyed monk, if anybody wants to know, come on up.
no, very similar. We do a half day shutdown. We try to plan some fun stuff. We've done an escape room in the past. We've done we do games. We're fairly small. We 5 lawyers, 15 staff, so we keep it somewhat intimate. We've had a singer come in and sing. So we try to do a private room somewhere at a local restaurant and keep it somewhat low key. And then Russell's firm shows up, and then the party starts.
We try to get something done early December, first or second week. When we were smaller, we would get a restaurant somewhere for a firm dinner and bring spouses. It started like we'd go down the distillery district or something. Started getting difficult when you get over 20 to get a reservation for that size group during December. And so we transitioned to events where we would get a box at the hockey game or rent the movie theater at it or something like that. And now we're at the stage. I really like Brian's off-season idea. I think that's fantastic. Right now, this year, we'll do an in-office party. So we'll have bagels and breakfast, and then we'll do a team meeting virtually with the people who don't make it in. And then we'll have a lunch, and then we'll do a Secret Santa. So Secret Santa with 30, 35 people could take 2 hours right there. So we also have a bar, and we provide transportation if somebody's been drinking too much, which is always a bit of a concern. But that's a full day, and it's great. And
Wait, Russ. This is a breakfast, and you have a bar at the breakfast? Wow.
No, well, we have what we call mimosas in the morning, right? Champagne and orange juice. And that's how they start. There's also coffee. And then by lunchtime, we open up the bar. So there'll be, wine and beer or whatever. And then you'll have we'll do a lunch in the office in our main boardroom. Then we bring everybody on the TVs who are remote, and then we'll do the Santa, and then we wind it up. And that's usually a lot of fun. The one year we did rent a box, everybody got to bring their kids, which was amazing to see everybody's kids, and we all watched the game, and that was a lot of fun too. But I'm moving towards this February office party. I think that's a great idea, a great way to break up the winter season. So, and I talked to a couple firms downtown. They're not dissimilar to us. Usually a dinner at a restaurant with some alcohol. Some of them are moving away from the Secret Santas. we still like it because we get to steal gifts from each other, and that's part of the fun as well. So that's what we're doing. Let's go into how larger firms different than smaller firms. Certainly, in my experience, larger you are, it becomes much more difficult to coordinate these events, especially when your team members are dispersed through a province. It could be quite expensive for them to travel to a central location. So we're doing hybrids as often as we can in a facility that permits that technology to occur. So we still have the in-person experience with the team on the Zoom on the screens. And we find that that's been working pretty good. We promote working remotely, so we're not requiring team members to come into the office except for once or twice a year for very big quarterly meetings or annual meetings. But that's sort of the blend that we've found. When it was smaller, it was great. We could pop downstairs to Hobart's when it was in business, or go out to the Piedmont or the Olympia and have 8 or 10 people and have a really nice connection. But it gets logistically, it gets much more difficult, and it's much more expensive too. That's what we've been doing. How about you, Brian? How does it differ now that you're a fairly large firm as opposed to when you're a smaller firm?
Yeah, we're almost 40 people, and between the lawyers and staff, and so it's a major event when we get everyone together. And in the old days, we used to have small, like go to a restaurant. Or what we used to do was join with other small firms so that we could make it like a bigger event. And some of the ski resorts out here had events for small businesses. So you could, book a table and they would have music and a buffet, and it felt like a big celebration. And because you were with people from other firms, and that was pretty fun too. But yeah, so as you evolve, you have to change, and these events are now, it's a major undertaking to organize and get everyone there and carpool and whatever.
Yeah, we have somebody, just an events coordinator. The other thing we do, which works out well, is we'll bring in a professional photographer when we do a larger event. And they'll take 3 hours of photos. So you got like 700 photos, which is great for social media throughout the year. You've got the team interacting, and it's a great way to share your team with the public through social media. How about you, Abby? What do you want to contribute to this?
2 things. I've remained small, so I expect to join your firm and Brian's firm and Jarret's firm for your Christmas, for your celebrations. So
come on by. We'd love to have you for sure.
We don't serve alcohol at breakfast, just so.
No, oh, that's a disappointment.
You're out, Brian. You're out.
Mimosas, Brian. Come on, it's a breakfast staple.
That's
Yeah, when you're small and intimate, so I've been to Russell's events a number of times. I am not unaware that, coming together with other larger firms are much fun and a joyous way to celebrate. So I look forward to my invites. Thank you.
There's a great energy about being in person that you don't get online, which is, this one sad thing about the pandemic, right? Less in-person contact. We used to be meeting every day, all day, and now it's an occasion, right? Like a few times a year. Jarret, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're still fairly small as well, so we can still do some of those more intimate, back room at a restaurant. Had a tour bus. A client of mine has a tour bus company, so we all got picked up at the office, taken down to Toronto for the day, and everyone dropped off at their homes after. So we can still we do a bit of a hybrid. Yeah, we can still do some of those more intimate get-togethers. And speaking to colleagues,
is there a cooler on the bus?
There is usually a cooler on the bus. A funny story for another day about that cooler on the bus, but make sure, same thing, Ross, we make sure everyone has a safe ride home. But yeah, there's been a couple Molson sponsored events for our social outings.
Yeah, it's a great time of year. Let's go to our audience. We haven't heard from our audience for a while. So this next poll, do you experience an increase in volume in clients in January? So I affectionately refer to this as Divorce Day in January, but let's see what our audience is experiencing. And yeah, I like the bus idea, Jarret. There's got to be a washroom in the bus too, though, right?
Yes, I'll share his contact information. He was great. He drove everyone home to some of them to their personal residences after he came back to the office, because we were worried about a couple staff members. There'd been a little bit too much fun had that day, so they had to
One
be
of our online attendees is saying small firm, 11 people, often do a holiday lunch at Morton Steakhouse. That's great.
That's great. Yeah.
And then also want to be mindful not to make sure that your staff gets too drunk. So somebody's got to keep an eye on things. That's a good point. All right, increase in clients in January. Yes, 47. Wow, no, 47%. They're put it in the Q&A. Split right down the middle. We don't see that too often. So the rush, Divorce Day in Canada. Abby, what are we talking about here?
Well, the rush in January. Also, it always comes about in my mind and in my experience about, we talked about, do we rush to court for motion for holidays? And then when the holidays do come, we're rushing back to lawyers in January because of the disappointments and unexpected expectations that are not met during the Christmas period. A lot of people would so I find the Christmas season and the New Year increases tension between the clients. And that's, when they come and start talking to you in the new year, you're realizing that maybe I tried to spend the holidays and think maybe it would ultimately work out. But what happened during Christmas didn't end up being what I had hoped for. So our expectations are not met. Sometimes it's to do with holiday spending. Someone spent way too much money, and then this is it, I'm done. So people are rushing to lawyers after the new year. So the holidays, really what it does, what I find is that it provides a mirror and expands what the strain and tension is in the family. So then January comes, it's like, I'm done, end of the new year, I'm starting the new year fresh, I'm going to my lawyer, I'm done, and sometimes as well, maybe parties are able to, they think about and are able to sort out the parenting time during Christmas and hope they were able to, or those ones that didn't make it to the motion, and then suddenly they couldn't, the parenting time couldn't be, both parties unsatisfied with how they arrange it, and they're also rushing off to lawyers to deal with that as well. So I think there's a whole number of things that makes this January such a busy period, unmet expectations, financial issues. Sometimes it's alcohol as well during the summer, during the Christmas holidays. And it turns out that, I can't take it anymore. This alcohol issue is too much for me. I'm not taking it anymore. So I think Christmas is a beautiful period, but it heightens or highlights strains in family that makes them come see us in January. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I agree. Jarret?
Yeah, it's always tough, right? Everyone has their different motivators and their different situational factors leading to their separation. But yeah, we definitely see an influx of more clients in January because, a lot of times it's practical, right? Look at COVID, when people literally were afraid to leave their home, even though they were, for all intents and purposes, legally separated under the same roof. And a lot of times clients come in January and they say, look, I just waited it out for the kids' sake to get through the holidays, or I had this going on, or I had this going on leading up to the holidays. So here, the same kind of things we're experiencing, as you've already touched on. So yeah, that's usually why we see an influx in January, because of those just practical factors, why they waited to come see a lawyer in January. And from a practical standpoint too, it's lawyers are harder to get into to see in December because we're already busy trying to deal with all our current active files, right? So there's some of
Yeah, I usually see the second Tuesday in January. It's usually the big bump. People are still recovering from New Year's. There's an ebb and flow to family law, right? We know that it's going to be busy in the spring, it's going to be busy in the fall. So there's a seasonality to it. But I agree with you, Abby. The credit card statements come in January and the bills come in from Christmas. Oftentimes, the person delays. They want to give little Johnny one more Christmas with their family before they separate. The New Year's Eve, right? People make resolutions and they want a fresh start. And sometimes that fresh start means moving on without that spouse that they've been married to. Also, there's quite a bit of infidelity I find over the Christmas break. All these parties Jarret and Brian are throwing, the staff are on the photocopier. You know how it goes, right? So there's a lot of stresses that aren't usually part of a regular marriage that kind of stack on top of each other at Christmas time. That's why I think we see a spike. And like you said, Abby, people may have decided in November, but they're going to wait, or they can't get into their lawyer because their lawyers decided to take the month of December off. What are you saying, Brian, in terms of spike?
Absolutely. January, it tends to be the busiest month for potential new clients and consultations, and for all of those reasons that you explained. And the other factor, we've been joking about it, but there is often a lot of alcohol consumed over the holidays, and some people that can lead to conflict and crisis. So yeah, absolutely, it will lead to then deciding, okay, I'm going to make a change in my life and go see a divorce lawyer in January.
Also, just the dynamics of getting family members together, right? The in-laws and the pressure of going to visit family that you may not want to visit, and then the disputes that arise out of that. It could be quite stressful.
Tremendous.
Even in the best of times. Okay, so let's talk about diversity. A lot of what we're talking about, Christian Christmas holidays, but certainly we're a very diverse country. I know growing up, the Ukrainian had different schedule, and obviously so do other religions. But Brian, you want to take the lead on diversity?
Yeah, our firm has changed tremendously over the years, and so we have people from very different, lots of different backgrounds. And so for them, it may not be the Christmas that they're celebrating. Maybe they're celebrating Hanukkah, or they're Muslim, or what have you. And so what we try to do to acknowledge that and celebrate our diversity within our firm is we have a communication channel in Ring Central. Ring Central is sort of like Slack. It's a way of communicating in among our people. And it's just on cultural events. So we'll have an explanation of what is Hanukkah about, so that people can celebrate those, acknowledge those, and they're all appreciated through that communication challenge. I mean, it's not a big thing, but I think it's appreciated. People like to learn about other people's culture and traditions, and so that's what we do. We have a small committee that puts out something throughout the year regarding different cultural and religious events.
Yeah, great. Abby?
I'm listening to Brian speak, and I'm like, I don't want to say like I'm in awe, but I actually, I'm very impressed about, what you do at your firm, because I think at the end of the day, with respect to diversity, the most important thing is to just ensure that everybody's, the difference between us is celebrated. And
Right.
and not only celebrated, accepted as well, and celebrate. So everybody feels the word I like to use is like everybody feels heard. just because you hear me doesn't mean you do what I say, but at least I want to be heard. I want to be seen, right? So, and I think that the living room for that to be acknowledged is just to be applauded. And I honestly, that's the way to go, because it's more of a, it's a diverse, we're in a diverse community, so to speak, and acknowledging everybody in that diversity setting is just to be applauded. I think it's just fantastic. Thank you, Brian.
I agree with both of you. We have a fairly diverse team as well.
Mm.
We have a DEI committee, and we celebrate diversity throughout the year, not just at Christmas time. And it's an ongoing committee. So it's always you always want to recognize and include everybody in your whatever celebrations you do throughout December. So thank you very much. So let's get some final thoughts, and then we've got Daphne with some Q&A. So maybe we'll go to Q&A and then final thoughts. You want to take the lead, Daphne? Daphne, welcome back.
Sure, thank you. Thanks so much for such a great presentation so far. I'll ask a few questions from our audience, so thank you very much for participating. First one we have here is, how can law firms balance reduced hours with client demands during the holiday season?
Right. Well, I think you communicate early. Like Brian said, put it in your signature line of your email or your letterhead and say, our office are closed these hours for these days, and let them know. Well, I assume you send that out late November, early December, Brian?
Yeah.
So they've got a month notice. And what about you, Abby?
I think it's absolutely perfect. I think I tend to do it. I think I'm a bit late this year. I tend to do it on the 1st of December. And when you ask the question, I think the answer that came to my mind immediately, Law School 101, manage your client's expectation.
Right.
So, yes, we're there to do our work for our clients, but, only within a certain confinement. So we have to manage that and make sure that they understand that this is what we can do for them. And you manage that by, as Brian said, giving notice early as to when we are or not going to be around. And, for me, it's not just putting it in my email or putting it in my social media or whatever. When I speak to my clients, I actually do have that conversation as well. And get an understanding or make sure they have an understanding of what we're doing during the holiday period. So every opportunity when I speak to a client, I make sure I mention it. Do remember that we're not open between this day and this day, just to, again, manage that expectation.
Great. Next question, Daphne?
Yeah, next question. What strategies help ensure accessibility for urgent cases over the holidays?
Well, we kind of covered that one off. I think the last answer was great. Manage the expectations, right? So there could be a few firms that are operating, or we may have somebody who could take your call. That doesn't mean we're going to be able to go to motions court and hammer out an affidavit in one day. So it goes back to what Abby was saying in terms of managing expectations at the front end. Do you guys want to add to that?
Yeah.
No.
We monitor emails, and one of my associate lawyers asked me, what should I tell my clients? And I said, well, tell them, put in the subject matter if they think it's an urgent matter, and they email you, and then you can contact them if in fact it is really urgent. But that's all we do, is monitor the emails to make sure that nothing of an urgent or emergency has arisen, and then there's an expectation that the lawyers will do their best to help the client. But the court's shut down too. There's not a lot you can do, but you can maybe get them to some, the police or some other resource that can help them if there's an issue of domestic violence, for example. So, but that's all. But it's about like Abby said, it's about managing expectations, and you got to have boundaries, right? I've been practicing family law for 34 years, and if I didn't have boundaries, I would have gone insane long ago, because it's very taxing on the professionals, and we need to look after ourselves. We need to have holidays. We need to have time off, and we need to teach our clients that we're not at their beck and call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Absolutely. And life happens. So
This job is like a black hole, right? It'll
Mhm.
take as much of you as you're prepared to put in.
willing to give.
We had an associate lawyer. We had to tell him to take a vacation. He had not taken one vacation in 3 years.
Mm.
And we were worried he was going to burn out. And that's sat at his desk, worked 14 hours a day, every day. That's, you need that balance. So I agree with you, Brian. That's a fantastic point. One more, Daphne, then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, sure. So final question. There's a lot to think about when running a law firm, I'm sure. So what is your number one top piece of advice for managing a law firm in December?
Well, this is a nice final thought question too. Good pick, Daphne. Who wants that one first? Abby, you want to start?
I'm gonna let Brian start.
Well, my advice always is that you need to carve out time in your schedule to work on your practice, not in your practice. So you need to have time each week to plan out what is my cash flow? What is our policy regarding urgent matters over the holidays? And be prepared, but it's so easy to be swept up by the demands of clients, and that you're just working in the practice and not on it. That's a mistake. I think everybody, whether you're a sole practitioner or you have a large firm like Russ's, you need to carve out time to manage your practice, because it's a business, and you need to plan how you're going to cope with everything that comes down your way.
When I was in law school in England, one of the things that we were taught is that when you schedule your clients, you schedule court, you schedule everything. What you must do, which fits into what Brian just said, is that you must also schedule what they call at the time thinking time.
Yeah.
And I always do that. Even if I just block an hour here and there, I may be thinking about how to run my practice. I may be thinking about budgeting, and I may also, quite frankly, be thinking about my files or how to strategize and things. But I make it a point to, take a slow down and think about what's going on, think about what I'm doing, and how I want it to be, or sometimes just have my mind blank so that I can come back to it fresh. But I do carve out, what they call back then thinking time into my schedule.
Yeah, that's a great tip. You have to have some grace, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, I don't want to rush into anything. If it's going to be too busy, I'll just cancel it or not go to it. I want to be present when I'm with people, as opposed to worried about my next meeting or having to travel across town. And I think we also need to be mindful of our mental health, not just our clients that we hook up resources to, but our team as well, and provide them with access to mental health professionals, because who knows what's going on behind closed doors or what they're not telling us. They may be showing up happy and ready to work, but there may be some real mental health issues that go undetected. So want to be really mindful of your team's mental health during the holiday season. It could be very difficult for everyone. And just my tip would be keep that at top of mind. So on that note, let's wrap up, Daphne.
Excellent. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much to our panelists for a great discussion today. Once again, for the audience members, you will receive a follow-up email tomorrow with any show notes that the speakers choose to include. And I think that is it. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Brian, Abby, Jarret, everybody have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.